Good evening, friends. Today it is August 19, 2026, and we are leading with a paradigm shift in hematological oncology. Segment 1: Oncology and Breakthrough Approvals. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has officially granted accelerated approval to iberdomide, Zenbexis. The molecule, iberdomide, is the first-in-class oral CLMOD, cereblin modulating protein degrader. The indication, indicated for adults with relapsed or refractory multiple myeloma, RRMM, who have received at least one prior line of therapy, including a proteasome inhibitor and an immunomodulatory drug, IMiD. The regimen, administered in combination with daratumumab, hyaluronidase phage, and dexamethasone. The data, in the Excalibur RRMM trial, the quadruple regimen achieved an MRD-negative complete response rate of 41%, compared to just 21% in the active control arm at a 16-month median follow-up. Clinical safety: watch for boxed warnings regarding embryo-fetal toxicity and venous/arterial thromboembolism. Companion diagnostics, CDX, influx. The FDA has simultaneously dropped a cluster of biomarker-gating companion diagnostic approvals that change precision oncology workflows. Melanoma: LabCorp's PGDx ElioTissue Complete CDX has been approved as an in-house, kit-based next-generation sequencing (NGS) test. This allows regional hospital labs to identify BRAF V600E/K variants internally, drastically cutting biopsy-to-treatment turnaround times. Upper GI malignancies: Agilent's PDL1 IHC28-8 PharmDx is now approved to gate checkpoint inhibitor eligibility in esophageal squamous cell carcinoma and gastric/gastroesophageal junction adenocarcinomas. Ensure your lab uses the correct combined positive score (CPS) methodology, as scoring systems vary significantly by clone. Breast cancer: Foundation-1 CDX has secured approval to screen for PIK3CA mutations, identifying patients eligible for targeted treatment with inavolisib. Segment 2: Metabolic and Neurology Research Updates. Artificial sweeteners and diabetes risk. Moving to metabolic health, a massive systematic review and meta-analysis published in Frontiers in Nutrition is making headlines. The study, an evaluation tracking over 720,000 adult participants. The finding: a strong longitudinal association was demonstrated between high intake of artificial sweeteners and a statistically significant increase in type 2 diabetes risk. Clinical takeaway: while causality requires further molecular validation, this data provides robust evidence to counsel pre-diabetic patients against substituting sugar with synthetic alternatives blindly. The aging brain and neuroimmunology. Neuroscience: Stanford researchers have published a groundbreaking discovery regarding the blood-brain barrier and aging. The discovery: the aging human brain is far less isolated from peripheral circulation than previously assumed. The mechanism: large-scale cohorts revealed that immune cells actively flood into the aging brain. Pathology link: this immune infiltration appears to drive localized, chronic neuroinflammation, unlocking a potential therapeutic pathway for mitigating neurodegenerative decline and cognitive impairment. Segment 3: Digital Health, Generative AI and Medical Toxicology. FDA's Gen AI Regulatory Framework. In medical technology, the FDA has opened a critical public docket, FDA 2026 N7874, requesting immediate feedback from clinicians and device manufacturers. The focus: developing a scientifically rigorous regulatory framework for generative AI-enabled medical devices. The timeline: healthcare providers have until October 19, 2026, to submit technical feedback regarding safety bounds, bias mitigation, and clinical validation metrics on regulations.gov. Toxicology alert: the kratom surge. A disturbing public health report highlights that kratom-related poison center cases have surged by 6,500% in the United States over the past decade. The numbers: cases skyrocketed from just 19 annual reports to over 1,200 documented severe poisonings annually. Presentation: physicians should remain hypervigilant for toxicities presenting with altered mental status, hepatotoxicity, and respiratory depression secondary to unregulated herbal supplement use. Segment 4: Global Health Policy and Workforce Crisis. Resident burnout and restructuring. On the global workforce front, the National Medical Commission, NMC, has formally reported to the Supreme Court regarding systemic postgraduate training hazards. The finding, chronic, round-the-clock duty hours, frequently extending to 3 to 5 consecutive shifts, are directly linked to severe physical exhaustion and acute mental health crises among PG medical residents. The mandate: the Commission acknowledged that these grueling operational cycles directly compromise patient safety, accelerating calls for a strict uniform residency work-hour framework. Medical education overhauls. Concurrently, the National Testing Agency, NTA, is undergoing an unprecedented structural overhaul following the NETUG paper leak fallout. The interventions: over 50 staff members have been removed, and 10 new professional leadership roles have been introduced to rebuild confidential examination architecture. Security tech: future medical entry frameworks will transition to entirely air-gapped systems, isolated rooms, and private sector cybersecurity audits to preserve testing integrity. Segment 5: Summary and Clinical Pearls. Quick-fire summary. Oncology: shift relapsed multiple myeloma patients to iberdomide-based combinations where indicated. Transition your pathology department to kit-based NGS for faster BRAF screening. Metabolism: advise patients that artificial sweeteners correlate with heightened insulin resistance profiles in large-scale data. Ozempic teeth. Patients have reported a number of oral health issues while taking GLP-1 agonists, including dry mouth, sensitivity, and gum inflammation. Experts told MedPage Today this tends to stem from dehydration issues that the drugs can bring on. MedPage Today. Bayesian trials. Clinical trials have historically been designed and predominantly analyzed using traditional statistical methods, also known as frequentist methods. Over the past several decades, Bayesian approaches have been increasingly adopted, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, recently released a draft guidance outlining their use in clinical trials. 1 Bayesian statistics provides a framework in which prior information or assumptions regarding some aspect of the trial, e.g., the control outcome rate, the treatment effect, are formally combined with observed trial data. This combination produces an updated estimate of the treatment effect. JAMANetwork.com. Heart failure. HF often insidious: ask exertional dyspnea, orthopnea, fatigue, edema, weight gain. BNP/NT-proBNP early and suspected chronic HF, normal values help rule out clinically relevant HF. BNP/NT-proBNP interpretation affected by age, CKD, AF, obesity, use clinical context. High-risk groups: HTN, CAD, DM, CKD, obesity, AF, prior MI, cardiotoxic cancer therapy. Early echocardiography confirms HF, assess EF, wall motion, valves, diastolic function. Medscape. Neurology update. Today's breaking neurology updates for August 19, 2026, are spearheaded by the US FDA's priority review acceptance of ecopipam, a first-in-class pediatric Tourette syndrome treatment, alongside a landmark clinical discovery pinpointing a 20 to 35 Hz hidden brain rhythm that optimizes deep brain stimulation, DBS, for Parkinson's disease. Toti, we are tracking an extraordinary past 24 hours in neuroscience. If you or someone you love is impacted by Tourette syndrome, Alzheimer's disease, or Parkinson's, today's headlines are going to change everything. Section 1. The big picture: we have a massive regulatory shift from the FDA on a first-in-class pediatric treatment, a newly isolated neural rhythm that alters how we treat Parkinson's, and a massive 21,000 patient study rewriting what we know about women's brain health. Rocket Section 2, Headline 1, Ecopipam's FDA Priority Review. The core news, breaking just hours ago: the Teva Pharmaceuticals press room confirmed that the US FDA has officially accepted the new drug application for ecopipam. Not only did they accept it, but they also granted it priority review, targeting a final PDUFA action date in late Q1 2027. Why it matters. First-in-class therapy, ecopipam is specifically targeted at pediatric patients suffering from Tourette syndrome. Novel mechanism: unlike traditional antipsychotics that act heavily on D2 dopamine receptors, ecopipam selectively blocks the D1 dopamine receptor. Side effect profile: this reduces the severe motor and metabolic side effects traditionally associated with Tourette treatments. Brain Section 3, Headline 2, The Hidden Parkinson's Rhythm. 3D brain map: the subthalamic nucleus and its functional connection to the frontal cortex, a wave graphic undulating at 20 to 35 Hz. The discovery: moving to neurotechnology, researchers at the University of Cologne have cracked a hidden code inside the Parkinson's brain. Published in Science Daily, scientists isolated a highly specific electrical rhythm operating between 20 and 35 Hz. Deep dive breakdown. The circuit: this distinct frequency acts as a communication bridge between the deep subthalamic nucleus and the frontal cortex. The clinical payload: by mapping this connection via magnetoencephalography, MEG, researchers found that the strength of this specific rhythm directly predicts how much a patient's motor symptoms improve after surgery. The impact: this completely transitions deep brain stimulation, DBS, from an experimental guessing game into closed-loop, adaptive neuromodulation. Devices will soon auto-tune themselves to this exact frequency rhythm in real time. Test tube Section 4, Headline 3, Estrogen versus Alzheimer's Pathology. 39% lower dementia odds / 35% fewer amyloid plaques. PET scan showing healthy versus tau-tangled brains. The big study: next up is a massive piece of preventative neurology data. A monumental study tracking over 21,000 women has shown that late-life, estrogen-only hormone therapy offers stunning neuroprotection against neurodegeneration. The hard data. Clinical diagnosis: estrogen users showed a 39% reduction in the odds of a dementia diagnosis. Postmortem proof: autopsy data showed a 35% lower incidence of classic Alzheimer's structural changes, including toxic amyloid plaques and tau tangles. Contextual tie-in: this pairs perfectly with the FDA's massive approval just days ago of -6,240 Malawian kwachas. To clarify, a highly advanced tau PET tracer designed specifically to map these exact neurofibrillary tangles during early diagnostic workups. We are entering the era of hyper-early prevention. Microscope Section 5, Clinical Trial Roundup and Autoimmune Trends. Lucid MS approvals: multiple sclerosis patients have a major reason to be hopeful today. The FDA just cleared the Phase 2 trial for Lucid MS, a revolutionary, non-covalent PAD2 inhibitor aimed directly at treating progressive MS. Unlike traditional biologics that just quiet down your immune system, Lucid MS is designed to prevent demyelination and actively promote nerve repair. Angelman syndrome and Beacon. Meanwhile, the Phase 3 Beacon trial has formally launched. It is evaluating rugonersen, an intrathecal injection given every 12 weeks to pediatric and adult patients with Angelman syndrome. Early data from the preceding Tangelo study showed remarkable, dose-dependent reductions in abnormal brainwave activity and measurable boosts in expressive communication. Repurposed biologics. At the recent AAN Autoimmune Neurology Conference, clinical trials spotlighted tocilizumab and JAK inhibitors like tofacitinib as powerful repurposed tools to combat severe, treatment-resistant neurosarcoidosis. Chart increasing Section 6, BCI and the Next Frontier. Explosive growth of brain-computer interfaces, BCIs. Experts are calling 2026 the most consequential year in BCI history. BrainGate neuroprosthesis: patients with severe paralysis are now achieving typing speeds of 22 words per minute with minimal errors using direct brain chips. Neuralink progress: the high-profile PRIME study is rapidly approaching full enrollment, with over 21 human patients actively implanted. Psychiatric intervention: devices like Motif Neurotech's BCI are moving directly into human clinical trials to treat severe, treatment-resistant depression. Summary: from the pediatric priority review of ecopipam to hidden brain rhythms and BCI triumphs, the velocity of neuroscience right now is staggering. Outro and call to action. That concludes our clinical briefing for August 19, 2026. Which of these updates will change your practice layout this season? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for your time, and keep up the vital work on the front lines of patient care. Don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who cares about their health, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Be sure to subscribe to this channel. Stay healthy, and I will see you in the next video. Disclaimer: compiled information. This content is for educational purposes and is not a substitute for professional advice. The audience must verify the contents before use. The creator, publisher, and YouTube will not be responsible for any harm.